Haney from the Scene magazine. Here's the latest edition of Dishin' with Donald.
This week we have a special guest, Peter Desbarats, who's written a play called Your Worship. Welcome.
I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. Tell us about this play.
Well, the play is basically about a young woman who decides to run for mayor in this mythical southwestern Ontario city, and who happens to be a Christian fundamentalist.
That sounds a lot like our former mayor, Diane Haskett. Would you say that it was somewhat inspired by that?
Well, people have been asking me that for the last few months when word about the play has started to circulate. And I originally said it was inspired by, but I think a better way of putting it, it was suggested by. Suggested by certain events during Diane Haskett's 2 terms as mayor.
At your press conference, your director said that a can of worms will be opened. You hope?
Well, I wouldn't put it that way exactly myself. I think it's going to open discussion. And in fact, I think during one of the performances, or after one of the performances on a Sunday, I think we're actually going to have a discussion about the play. But I think the play opens up a discussion about many, many issues, mainly the role of religion and politics in Canada at this particular time.
Do you think that Christians who might come see the play might consider it a propaganda?
No, I don't think so. It certainly isn't propaganda. There's the mayor's point of view, which is that she's a Christian and everything she does should be influenced by her beliefs. And there's the other point of view, mainly expressed by her director of communications, who is a sort of Dalton Camp character, small L liberal, who's very much opposed to this. And so this dialogue goes on, this debate goes on throughout the play. In fact, at the end of the play, I was surprised when I finished writing it that the mayor turned out to be a more sympathetic character than I expected. Everything goes wrong for her in the play.
But it's a comedy, isn't it?
It's a comedy.
I think that'll surprise people. I mean, did you intend it to be, or did it just sort of develop that way?
It just really developed that way. Halfway into the play, a dinner scene suddenly appeared with the minister, the mayor, the minister of the largest evangelical church in this mythical city, who happens to be black, and the local restaurant owner, who's a French-Canadian, and the head of the local gay-lesbian alliance. They all find themselves at dinner, and they all start to attack one another, and I suddenly realized I actually had a comedy on my hands, at least for part of the play. And I believe that a play has to entertain. It can't. I think plays that preach are, even if they're written by George Bernard Shaw, are a little bit hard to take.
In the real scenario that played out in London, was there any winners?
Well, the mayor stuck to her guns. I think the city lost, though. I think it created divisions in the city, or exacerbated divisions in the city unnecessarily, yes.
I think that, of course, there'll be a built-in audience. I mean, people are going to want to see a play, even if it's not based on Diane Haskett, inspired by, or you said...
And relevant to this city's particular experience, certainly. Yes, I hope they will. But I hope that they'll also have a good time at the theater.
Do you think that when this play, if it goes big, which you hope, other communities will take it on, and do you think that it'll become like history to them, or do you think that they will see it as like a...
Oh, I think the issue of religion and politics involves many communities in Canada right now in different forms, not exactly the same form as in London. So I think it's relevant to other communities. And the role of religion in politics has been very relevant throughout Canadian history. I mean, religion used to play a huge role in Canadian politics, a very destructive role quite often. So I think Canadians will find relevance historically and also in their own experience in their own communities. And of course, mayors have become more interesting as well since the Giuliani phenomenon in New York after September the 11th.
You were former dean of journalism at Western. You're retired, but you seem to be as busy in your retirement as you were before.
Quite busy. I mean, retirement is giving... I said during my years in journalism, I often said, I wish I had time to do writing I really wanted to do. And now I've got time, and I'm doing some of it. It's terrific.
Well, that's great. We wish you all the best with your play. Thank you for joining us at this time.
Yep.
Back to you in the studio.